Hey guys, and welcome to my first Wings of Fire video on this channel. Today I'm going to be starting an audiobook series that I wrote, and it takes place 50 years after the last book, The Flames of Hope. I'm going to be reading the prologue to you guys, but even though it's like a prologue, it's still got major spoilers for the end of the Wings of Fire series and the Wings of Fire series as a whole. So if you don't want to get spoiled, watch the video later. Also, I'm sorry if the characters are a little bit out of character, because I actually haven't read the books in a long time. Also, this is like an alternate universe in case Tui writes more books. And at the end of, at the time of this video coming out, there's 15 books. Also, if there's any weird cuts in the video, I'm sorry, because the screen recordings weren't downloading for some reason. But luckily I got it working at the end, so yeah. And one final thing, I was drawing with my trackpad, so deal with it. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the video. Wings of Fire After the End by Cybertooth 1. Prologue. 50 years after the events of the Flames of Hope. The wind whipped around the mountain, pushing swirling raindrops on the air currents. A single full moon glowed determinedly, struggling to illuminate the night without the help of the other two Icewing Claw-shaped moons. It seemed to be fighting a silent battle with the moons that its companions had already lost to, like a Nightwing fighting the smoke of the volcanic island they used to live on. But that was a long time ago. Now the Nightwings were a divided, weak tribe. Half were stuck being ruled by a tyrannical Rainwing. Those dragons were considered stupid and lazy, just like the dragons they were currently following. Some of the Nightwings escaped to live on the peninsula that was slowly chipping away until it was devoured by the sea. They were too small a group to even be called a tribe there, but they insisted it was. Even more Nightwings scattered across the continent, sharing their knowledge of prophecies and mind-reading to the rest of Pyria. Some of them even spread to Pantala, waiting to learn about their heritage from the Book of Clearsight and meeting their descendants. The rest of the Nightwings nobody spoke of. Most of the good-willed Nightwings were traditional in their ways. They were locked up from any outtribers. They were sick in the head, wanting to have dragonettes with dragons from different tribes. It was a shame the first Nightwing to have her powers in thousands of years happened to be one. And by the 3 moons, with a lowly Slandwing from the Scorpion Den. As a result, Moonwatcher was an outcast from all the Nightwings, even the dim-witted, weak-hearted Nightwings who decided to stay being ruled by a lazy, stupid Rainwing. They were smart enough to know that outtribers were dangerous. Well, except for Nightwing Rainwing dragonettes. They thought it was okay for some reason. It was too bad the disgraced Nightwing was part of a prophecy, because so many dragons respected her. A dragon stood at the edge of the cave, strategically nestled out of sight from any Skywing patrols. He watched the swirling rain with a blank expression. Despite the pouring droplets, he didn't seem to have a drop of cool water on his jet black scales. Either he was waterproof, or his scales were too dark to see any of them. He scanned the mountainous landscape, as if looking for something or someone. A flash of lightning illuminated his face, revealing a silver scale behind each cold, stormy gray eye. He couldn't see a flash of red scales indicating a certain Skywing he was looking for. But while he gazed out, something else caught his eye. A singed piece of paper was flying by, the winds carrying it right towards him, as if somehow important that he see it. He snatched it out of the air and brought it to the cave. If Carmen couldn't find him in her own territory, it would be her own fault. He lit a small fire and left it nearby to dry. He suspected it was important, and it was like a secret letter, as many important letters were to be burned after read. He made sure not to let the rest of it burn, and he read what little he could read. He scanned the text, his eyes narrowed. It was strange. Some of the sentences appeared to be written in different talent writing, and some looked more rushed than others. Though the paper was small, it seemed to be taken off a larger scroll, so it wasn't a letter. But if it wasn't a letter, what was it? As he read what it said, something suddenly hit him. It was Darkstalker's Animus scroll. The dragon stumbled back with the realization. He had heard that scroll was burned over 50 years ago, But this piece must have survived. It could be the last piece of animus magic that could ever be used. And it was right here. He could write on it, on what little space was left, and use it to enchant something. The dragon fumbled with the pack around his neck, quickly pulling out a quill and ink, thought for a moment, and he began to write. When I blow out this fire, all the animus magic will be restored to any dragon whose power it was taken away by Jerboa, the second of the Sandwings. The jet black dragon smiled at what he had written, and, with that, he blew out the flame. Princess Auklet stared at Queen Coral, Queen of the Sea Wings, the successful author, the dragon who forgets the names of her sons, and the overprotective mother to her 3 daughters. She was the best mother Auklet could have asked for, but now she lay, weaker than she had ever been before. She was struggling to breathe, and with every hacking cough, her body moved a little less. Healers rushed around the room, frantically trying to find remedies for the sudden sickness that had begun taking Queen Coral's life just 4 days prior. Her whole family was crammed into one room, all 32 sons and 3 daughters. All of their faces were a mixture of terror, sorrow, and hopelessness. Auklet knew all their fears were no match for hers, though. Tsunami didn't want to be queen, and she was too busy for that anyway. Anemone had given up being her heir after she realized how corrupt she had gotten after her animus magic, and that just left the youngest, Auklet. She was the youngest, but she knew she had to be queen. It was the only thing she could do to protect the Sea Wings from a terrifying leader like Anemone, or Tsunami, who wouldn't be able to run both Jade Mountain Academy and the Sea Wing Kingdom. So the queenship was left to Auklet. Great. And Auklet. The green Sea Wing princess's attention went back to her mother. She had addressed each princess individually, and all the princes as a whole. Poor them. But now it was her turn. Auklet, I'm sorry it had to be this way. You're such a strong young dragon, so much like your father in every good way. I know you'll be an amazing queen. Tears filled Auklet's eyes as she pressed her muzzle to her mother's cheek. Mother, I don't think I'm ready. I'll never be as good at being queen as you were. The dying queen clutched her daughter's neck in as tight a hug as she could muster in her weakened state. You'll be like me and more. I know you won't make any of the mistakes I did, for I was too desperate for an heir. The only thing I'll be better at you was writing best-selling scrolls. Coral laughed at her own joke, but it soon turned into a coughing fit. I know you'll do well, my daughter, for I'll always be with you, forever and always. Auklet desperately hugged her mother, as if she could squeeze her mother so tight her life wouldn't be able to escape, but it was no use. The queen's breath slowed, and then finally stopped. No, don't die, mother, I need you. Please stay. I need you to help me. Mother! Auklet sobbed. All the dragons looked shocked and scared and sad, but the 3 princesses most of all. Mother, don't die, I command you, as headmistress of Jade Mountain Academy. Don't die. Mother, Coral, no! Tsunami screamed. I'm sorry, I regret everything I said behind your back. I never meant any of it. Just come back, Mother, please. I wish that stupid dragon Jerboa hadn't taken away all the animus magic. Then I could have magicked this horrible sickness away. All the princes just stared. Some of them cried, some of them tried not to cry, and some of them came to place their talons on their mother's wings. At least she tried to learn our names. Well, she could have tried harder. I hate to break it to you, but it's too late for that. The princesses are still lucky to have known her. At least we don't have to be queen. You're right, I guess. Stop talking badly about her. She just died, you idiots. Turtle walked over to the sobbing pile of anemone and put his talon on his shoulder. All hail Queen Auklet, was all he said. Everyone fell silent, except for the occasional sob. Auklet wiped her tears from her eyes. All hail me? She murmured, disbelief prominent in her tone. I can't believe it. I'm actually the queen. Finally, another of the princes spoke up. All hail Queen Auklet! They started a chanting of all hail Queen Auklet from all the dragons in the room. Their eyes that were once dull with grief were now shining with a new hope that gave the new queen strength and confidence. Tsunami stretched out her wing and rested it on her younger sisters in support, and Anemone did the same after a few seconds. Princess Auklet, your coronation is in just a few minutes. Catfish the advisor poked his head into her room and flashed at her in aquatic. You should address her as Queen Auklet. Anemone, who'd been helping her get ready, flashed back. With all due respect, Your Majesty, your sister shall not be addressed with that title until after the ceremony. Catfish flashed back nervously, lowering his head submissively. Anemone scowled at him, but Auklet put her talon on her sister's wing. It's okay, she flashed. I'll be queen by sunset anyway. Catfish smiled gratefully at her. Right this way, Your Majesty. Are you ready? Wait! Anemone quickly swam over. I forgot to give you this. She handed her younger sister a beautiful pearl necklace. It was Mother's. I hope it will give you good luck. Auklet smiled, and then she bent her head so that her sister could carefully place the jewelry around her neck. And with that, Catfish and Auklet began swimming to the long-destroyed island palace. This place gave Auklet the chills, but according to tradition, all coronations must be held there. Already, sea wings were beginning to gather. When she came into sight, her subjects gasped and whispered to each other. She remembered what her mother had taught her, and she held out her wings regally. She didn't make eye contact with anyone, just stared straight ahead. Catfish led her to the platform where she was supposed to stand on, and together they went backstage to wait for the rest of the dragons to arrive. Some of Auklet's brothers were already there. Good luck, they whispered to her encouragingly. She smiled gratefully. After about 45 minutes, Catfish gently tapped her with his tail. Princess, it's time we go on the stage. Remember what to say? She thought for a second and then grinned. Yep. The older dragon chuckled and then led her to the stage, closely followed by Anemone, Tsunami, and her 32 brothers, who could barely fit on stage. She remembered what her mother had told her about when she had to address the kingdom, and she lit up the bioluminescent scales on her wings to show the royal patterns. Dragons of the Kingdom of Sea, Catfish called, quieting down the excited chatter from the dragons. Tonight we mourn the loss of our queen, Cora. But not just for that, we must crown a new queen. I present to you Princess Auklet. All the dragons cheered, making the princess feel a rush of pride. But it was quickly turned into horror as she heard gasps from the audience. She turned around quickly to see that both Turtle and Anemone had collapsed. What's happening? Who did that? Are the princess and prince okay? Swim! Protect the new queen! Dragons began fluttering in panic. Some leapt into the ocean. Others ran up onto the stage to circle around Auklet. And more just stood like frightened whales. Who's attacking? It's Albatross. His ghost has cursed us. Auklet whipped her head around wildly, looking for someone who might have attacked her siblings. But then she realized something. Neither Anemone nor Turtle had a scratch on them. I hope you liked it. I spent a while writing this, so please like and subscribe. Also, this will be like a series, so stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next video.